Hello, this is Nitin Dahad with the Times. I'm here at CES in Las Vegas, and I'm here with Martin Cotter, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Analog Devices. Hello, Martin.
Hello, Nitin. Good to see you.
Martin, tell me a little bit about what you're showing here at CES. I mean, you said it's all around the sensing, which is transforming everything.
I think it's pretty incredible where we are as the world in terms of data. And essentially, we're at the physical to digital interface. We're bridging the world between the sensing measurement and going into digital for processing. Very much it's a world where big data sets, AI is becoming the buzzword of the time. But really it's the source of the data and getting the insight from the source of the data, that's our job, that's our role. So we're seeing this great opportunity in key market areas like autonomous driving, electrification for vehicle, the whole automotive sector, with a lot more content, a lot more sensing. Also in healthcare, we're seeing this great disruption that will come, and that's about getting predictive with the health of the person. So that's good for all of us.
Yeah.
It's about getting ahead of any of these major diseases, these chronic diseases that affect everybody. I think 6 out of 10 people at some point in their life will be affected by one of these diseases. And of course, the whole consumer interface. The whole world of 5G is going to come and disrupt a lot of our lives. We want to make sure that that's a positive overall outcome, and that's very much part of how we're investing and how we're working with our partners and our customers.
So, can you tell me a little bit about where Analog Devices fits into a lot of this? Because obviously that's quite an important part of what you do.
Yeah, it's pretty critical. So we're very much a company that believes in innovation and doing something that will drive a much bigger outcome. So for example, with everyone talks about autonomous transportation and level 4, level 5. That will happen, but it'll take a long time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, making cars safer and getting to level 4, level 5 goal is about making the car have 0 deaths. So automotive with 0 deaths is a world of having a safer driving experience. Our sensors, what they will do is they'll sense further. They also will give greater definition with radar sensing.
Yes.
So we have a very strong 77 gig cooperative radar solution, which allows you to discern a couple of inches at 300 meters instead of what was the case, which was really 150 to 200 meters, and it's maybe 5 or 6 inches.
Right.
So we're pretty excited about what we can do. It applies to automotive, but of course that will apply to other autonomous vehicles. Similarly with electrification.
Yes, you talked about battery management systems.
Battery management is phenomenal, right?
Yes.
There's a move, and we've all seen the trends in the world where global warming is a part of what's happening in Australia, for example. Having something that has a much lower carbon footprint overall, getting to efficient electrification, whether it's the car driving longer, maybe it's got higher range in terms of battery efficiency, so it could be efficiency or it could be capacity. So that all comes down to much more accurate measurement of the battery.
Correct. Also,
the life cycle of the battery, starting from formation of the battery, and then bringing it through a use in the car, and maybe a subsequent use could be for...
very interesting that.
So it's actually it's very exciting right now because the opportunities for using the technology, measurement technology, sensing technology, with very good processing at the edge, of course informed by longer processing at the cloud, I think is tremendous. So we're very excited. We've got a lot of demos at the show that will demonstrate this, and most of the sensing technologies span into multiple markets. For example, our time of flight solution,
yes,
which we've done in conjunction, I think, with our partners Arrow,
yes,
I believe is used a lot for in-cab. It's used in many cases for applications of consumer, but it's also used in-cabin to monitor the driver, because the driver is going to be part of the car for a long time yet.
Yes, that's right.
So we're pretty excited about the opportunities that we see for very accurate sensing and for sensing that goes beyond the norm.
It's interesting because the theme at CES this year is around connect the two things: connected intelligence, also electrification was the big theme, and I think you play into both of those, don't you? Really, very strongly.
We do, yeah. So in many cases, the word of AI is a buzzword that's seen everywhere. But what does it really mean? We think that there's a world where efficiency of extraction of the insight So processing at the edge, it really is complementary to AI or processing on the cloud. And we would see that that is a much more efficient solution, getting you better insights from sensing, and therefore being able to drive better outcomes. So we have a lot of demos that are showing this. We're excited about getting to the end outcomes, whereas in previous, maybe 5-10 years ago, we would be all just showing the measurement.
Correct.
Now we're showing the full system. So processing at the edge, as well as
some analytics.
Analytics.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's all becoming part of making that difference to the end use.
Okay, and the other thing they said, the big theme for this decade is going to be electrification, not just cars, all kinds of vehicles, and you talked about things like battery management, which extends the use of batteries or into other applications.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually. If you look at the economics of the electrification, having first, second, third uses of the battery, of course the car is the big use, but being able to accurately measure so that you increase the lifetime of the battery, as well as keep the history of the battery from formation to the use in the automotive case to the second use that could be in a home, that is a very valuable disruption in the economics of, and also in the carbon footprint of using batteries more efficiently.
So the other big topic, and I think we're not talking about it so much right now, is 5G. But it plays into everything else as well, automotive, healthcare, you talked about that. I mean, what are you going to see in that?
So we have a couple of different aspects in 5G. I think at the beginning, when the standards were formed, we're a company that does a lot of instrumentation, so we were involved in forming the testing of the standard. Then recently it started, this takes a long time, it started to deploy into a network. So we're part of the infrastructure of the actual base station tower to deploy 5G. But of course the exciting piece of it is still evolving. So I think we're hearing that 4G was pretty much a consumer data use. 5G is going to be very much more enterprise data use. About 70% of the data will be enterprise.
That's right.
So these industrial applications, these business applications, I think are where the very trusted sensing comes together with 5G, which is a reliable, robust network. So you got the combination of the two, allowing you to do things that we couldn't do before. So if it's a critical healthcare application, the data goes to the physician instead of just being a wellness device. But then it allows a real decision about that particular chronic disease. So it's CES is becoming very interesting because it's becoming an automotive, healthcare and consumer show. And of course the impact of what's expected is becoming much greater because they're all, each of those applications, 5G would affect all of them.
Correct. Yes.
And I think the ability to have, much more data, 100 times or more data, have many more connections, more than 1,000 times more connections, and to do that efficiently with very low latency, that brings in a lot of new applications. Everyone talks about the single home run application that's going to be worth billions, but actually it's going to be lots and lots of multiple $1 million applications. So we find it very exciting because our technology comes into many different applications that can get reused as 5G gets adopted. So we see 5G as being a trend for the next 4 to 5 years.
We're here at CES, consumer has been the main focus. We talked about automotive, we talked about healthcare. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of applications in the consumer space that you're working in?
The consumer is becoming much more discerning, right? So I know data, lots and lots of data for the consumer, and everyone's, I think, used to their phone. But you also see the need for very high-end audio video. So audio video is still one of the mainstream interfaces. Audio is everywhere, so things like noise cancellation devices. I think we have very strong noise cancellation technology. I think in the show it's a place that you can see it with a lot of noise at the show. Yes. So having a good noise cancellation for audio is actually similar for consumer in everyday application as well as in the in-cabin infotainment in the automobile.
It's also, with that noise cancellation, it's also all the voice control and voice activation, the new HMI, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And people expect now to be able to tell a receiving device an instruction. It's not just something that's always listening. It's something that says, do something and there's an action. So to be able to extract the insight from either an audio command or to be able to make sure you block out noise, I think is key. And we're seeing morphing between these applications. So some of the, we're well used to doing vital signs monitoring devices. They're all obviously on the body in terms of the wrist, but even in some cases they're now in the earbuds. So in a noise cancellation application, you now are rejecting noise and you also are monitoring the person. So in terms of their VSM. So that's a value proposition for either
VSM
sports,
is vital signs
monitoring. Yeah.
We use a lot of acronyms.
I'd say, yeah, we have to be careful with the buzzwords. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually, I saw a dog being monitored at CES, with using acoustic and using noise cancellation. Acoustic sensing.
It's incredible. If you think about how you go around your regular life, if you're trying to diagnose something that's wrong, you'll typically use audio first. So we have some great demonstrations where we're using audio signatures or we're using vibration signatures to predict a future event. So it might be, for example, the future state of a truck or a car, where we can look at a change in the signature of what you hear, that this is different to what's good.
Yeah.
So it's a new noise. We're all used to diagnosing our car for many, many years and a new noise, right?
But you can't tinker anymore now.
You can't tinker anymore. But we're applying these technologies between vibration sensing, very accurate vibration sensing, and also looking at what's inside the noise signal to determine what's going to happen, whether it's a bearing that's going to wear. So the applications for sensing are growing tremendously.
Taking you a little personal now, what excites you most about what you're doing with analog devices here at CES?
I think
That caught you by surprise.
many
as well.
things. Yeah, no. I think many things. Number one, I think the journey of automotive, where you're going to drive to zero deaths, you're also going to drive to much lower carbon footprint. That's saving lives and saving the planet. I think healthcare. So CES is becoming a very interesting show. You have very strong automotive, very strong healthcare now, and I think healthcare industry is probably the next one to disrupt. If you look at it, 18% of GDP in the US is spent on the top chronic diseases. So that's pretty, if the population that's over 65 is going to double in the next 15, 20 years. So you can't double the 18%, right? So therefore that industry has to disrupt. Being able to properly diagnose something like a heart issue, that's very exciting. Of course, it's aimed at giving that person a much better quality of life. So instead of having a chronic disease that degrades over time.
Because they might have too much information.
Yeah, they may have, but you have to extract the correct insight, right? So you can't do anything with data that's not properly processed in terms of insight. So we can see a world where really extracting the correct insight in each of these sensing applications. The data, where the data is born, has to be done with trusted measurement, trusted data. But then transforming that into an insight is the place where that outcome for the person, so it's for healthcare or for automotive, or it could be for industry. So we're seeing multiple applications of lots of these solutions that we're demonstrating. It's all about getting the most efficient measurement, processing it in a way that will extract the insight, and then delivering that to the full system in a way that can be robustly operated over the lifetime. So I'm very excited about all those areas.
Okay.
I think for a long time there were promises that weren't really demonstrated in a full system, a full solution. What's very exciting for us this year is we've got many, many different real-world sensing solutions together with our partners that are driving to this higher level of result. So it's a pretty exciting show. We're getting it's a pretty busy show, but that's a good problem.
You have something like, do you say 12 demos?
So we have 12 public demos, and then we have a number of newer technologies that we're also demonstrating. So it's a pretty packed show. Our customers are keen from all these major market areas to bring it to a full solution. And I think that's where we are. Processing at the edge is becoming much more real, and it's affecting these larger outcomes. There was a time when IoT was really about a world of low-value sensors that weren't really generating an economic outcome. Now I think we've gone to a place with 5G that's emerging, where you're going to have much more trusted connectivity which will drive much bigger impact and much bigger outcome. And that's the thing that most excites us.
Excellent. Well, I think on that note, we'll end that.
Really enjoyed speaking with you, Nitin.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you.